The ink on the divorce papers was barely dry when Liam threw a $20 bill onto the scarred kitchen table, sneering, "Take it! It's the last thing you'll ever get from me. You're dead weight, Benjamin, and I'm finally cutting you loose." He walked out the door to his new life, convinced he had just shed a burden. He had no idea that at that exact moment, 3,000 miles away, a sealed vault in Zurich was being opened, revealing a last will and testament that had been hidden for 40 years. Benjamin wasn't just broke. She was the sole heiress to the colossal Harrington real estate dynasty, a $1.3 billion empire. And Liam. He had just signed away his claim to the greatest fortune in the country, 5 minutes too soon. The radiator in the cramped fourth-floor walk-up rattled like a dying engine, a sound that had become the soundtrack to Benjamin's misery. She sat at the laminate table, her head in her hands, staring at the stack of envelopes that constituted their life. Final notice. Overdue. Immediate action required. The air in the apartment was stale, smelling of boiled cabbage from the neighbor downstairs, and the damp mold creeping up the wall behind the sofa. Benjamin Jenkins was 28, but tonight she felt 80. She had been working double shifts at Sal's diner for 6 months, trying to keep them afloat while her husband Liam pursued his potential. The lock clicked. Benjamin straightened up, wiping the exhaustion from her face. She forced a smile. Liam needed support. He was stressed. He was trying to get that promotion at the logistics firm. The door swung open, and Liam walked in. He didn't look tired. He looked electric. There was a nervous, frantic energy about him, his eyes darting around the shabby room with a look of undisguised disgust. He was wearing his good suit, the one Benjamin had scrimped to buy him for interviews. "Hey," Benjamin said softly, standing up. "I made pasta. It's cold, but I can heat it. Don't bother." Liam cut her off. His voice was cold, sharp as a razor. He didn't take off his coat. He stayed by the door, as if afraid the poverty of the room might stick to him if he stepped further in. "Liam, is everything okay?" He reached into his briefcase, a leather one he'd bought last week on a credit card they didn't have room on, and pulled out a thick manila envelope. He tossed it onto the table. It slid across the laminate and hit the stack of unpaid bills toppling them. "I'm done, Benjamin." Benjamin looked at the envelope, then back at him confused. "Done, you quit?" "No." He let out a harsh, incredulous laugh. "I didn't quit my job. I'm quitting this. Us. I'm quitting you." The room seemed to tilt. Benjamin gripped the back of the chair. "I don't understand." "What is there to understand?" Liam stepped forward, his face twisting into a sneer. "Look around you, Benjamin. Look at this dump. Look at you. You smell like grease and desperation. I'm going places. I have plans. Big plans. And every time I look at you, I see an anchor dragging me down to the bottom of the ocean." "Liam, we're a team," Benjamin pleaded, tears pricking her eyes. "I'm working 2 jobs so you can focus on—" "And that's the problem," he shouted, throwing his hands up. "You're a waitress. That's all you are. That's all you'll ever be. I need someone who fits the life I'm building. Someone with class. Someone with value." The cruelty of his words hit her like physical blows. Is there someone else?" Liam smirked. It was a look she had never seen on him before, arrogant, cruel. "Her name is Jessica. She's the VP of marketing. She has a condo in the city, a Mercedes, and a future. We've been seeing each other for 3 months." 3 months. While Benjamin was scrubbing tables and counting dimes for bus fare, He was whining and dining an executive. She knows about you, obviously. Liam continued, checking his watch. She thinks it's tragic. She actually pities you. She told me to be gentle, but honestly, I don't have time for gentle. Sign the papers, Benjamin. He pointed to the envelope. These are divorce papers. Uncontested. You get nothing. I get nothing. Not that we have anything to get. He scoffed, kicking a leg of the wobbly table. I'm taking the car. It's in my name, anyway. You can keep whatever this is. He gestured vaguely at the apartment. But I can't pay the rent on my own. Benjamin whispered, her voice trembling. Liam, if you leave, I'll be on the street. Not my problem, Liam said, pulling a pen from his pocket and slamming it down next to the papers. Sign it. Now. If you make me get a lawyer, I'll make sure you end up owing me money. Jessica's father is a judge. Do you really want to fight us? Benjamin looked at the man she had loved since high school, the man she had skipped meals for, the man she had believed in when no one else did. He was gone. In his place was a stranger with cold, dead eyes. Trembling, she picked up the pen. She didn't read the terms. She didn't care. She just wanted him to stop looking at her like she was garbage. She signed her name, Benjamin Marie Jenkins, on the dotted line. Liam snatched the papers up the second the pen lifted from the page. He checked the signature, satisfied. He reached into his wallet, pulled out a crumpled $20 bill, and threw it on the table. For the rent? He mocked. Consider it alimony. He turned and walked out. The door slammed, rattling the pictures on the wall. The silence that followed was heavier than the shouting. Benjamin sank to the floor, the $20 bill fluttering down beside her, and wept until her throat burned. She had nothing. No husband, no money, no future. She was truly alone. 3 weeks later, the eviction notice was taped to the door. Benjamin had tried to pick up extra shifts, but the diner had cut hours during the slow season. She had sold her wedding ring at a pawn shop for $150. Liam had told her it cost $2,000, but the pawnbroker laughed and showed her the cubic zirconia stamp. That final betrayal stung worse than the hunger gnawing at her stomach. She was packing her few belongings into garbage bags. She had found a shelter downtown that had a bed open for 3 nights. After that, she didn't know. It was a Tuesday afternoon, raining hard against the single-pane window. Benjamin was taping up a box of old books when a knock came at the door. It wasn't the aggressive pounding of the landlord demanding rent. It was firm, precise, authoritative. 3 distinct knocks. Benjamin froze. The police had Liam sent someone to harass her. She wiped her dusty hands on her jeans and crept to the door. "Who is it?" she called out, her voice raspy. "Ms. Benjamin Jenkins." A deep, calm voice replied, "My name is Arthur Christopher. I am an attorney with Christopher Price and Associates. May I have a moment of your time?" Benjamin cracked the door open, keeping the chain on. Standing in the dim, flickering hallway was a man who looked like he had stepped out of a movie. He wore a charcoal 3-piece suit that probably cost more than the entire building. He held a black umbrella in one hand and a leather briefcase in the other. Behind him stood a younger woman, equally well-dressed, holding a tablet. I don't have any money," Benjamin said quickly. "If this is about the credit cards, my ex-husband, he took them. I didn't spend that money." Mr. Christopher's expression softened, but not with pity, with respect. "I am not a debt collector, Ms. Jenkins. I am here regarding a matter of probate. May we come in?" Benjamin hesitated, then undid the chain. What did she have left to lose? They couldn't steal anything. She had nothing. They stepped into the tiny apartment. The contrast was jarring. The sharp, clean lines of their suits against the peeling wallpaper and the garbage bags on the floor. The younger woman, introduced as Ms. Carlyle, pulled out a handkerchief and placed it on the laminate chair before sitting. Mr. Christopher remained standing. "Miss Jenkins," Christopher began, "what do you know about your biological father?" Benjamin blinked. "My father, nothing. My mum said he left before I was born. She never told me his name. She died when I was 19. Your mother was a woman of great discretion," Christopher said, nodding slowly. "She signed a non-disclosure agreement 30 years ago to protect you. But that agreement expired upon the death of the other party." "The other party?" Benjamin asked, feeling a headache forming. "Who? Your biological father was Archibald Harrington." The name hung in the air. Benjamin frowned. "Harrington, like Tam Tomasutumsmai." "The buildings downtown. The Harrington Plaza. The Harrington Plaza, the Harrington Towers in New York. The Westgate development in London, and roughly 4,000 acres of prime commercial real estate across the continental United States," Christopher corrected gently. "Archibald Harrington was one of the wealthiest real estate moguls in the world." Benjamin let out a short, hysterical laugh. "Okay, look. This is a joke, right? Did Liam put you up to this? Is he outside with a camera?" She moved to the window, looking for Liam's car. "This is not a prank, Ms. Jenkins," Christopher said, his voice dropping an octave, becoming grave. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick document bound in blue velvet. "Mr. Harrington passed away 6 months ago. He had no legitimate children. His 3 nephews, Richard, Charles, and William, have been fighting over the estate like wolves. They assumed they would inherit everything." Christopher stepped closer, navigating around a box of kitchenware. "However," he continued, "Mr. Harrington left a doomsday clause in his will. He stated that if a DNA test confirmed the existence of his illegitimate child, a child he had been searching for privately for 2 decades, the entire estate would bypass the nephews and go to that heir." Christopher pulled a smaller paper from the file. "We took a sample from a coffee cup you discarded at the diner 3 days ago. I apologize for the subterfuge, but we had to be certain before we approached you. The DNA is a match, 99.99%. Benjamin's knees gave out. She slumped onto the sofa, narrowly missing a garbage bag. I don't understand." "It's simple, Ms. Jenkins," Christopher said. "You are the sole owner of the Harrington Trust." "How much?" she whispered. Christopher adjusted his glasses. After taxes and accounting for current market fluctuations, the liquid assets and real estate portfolio are valued at approximately $1.3 billion. The silence in the room was deafening. The rain lashed against the window, the only sound in a world that had just shattered and reformed into something unrecognizable. "But," Christopher raised a finger, his expression tightening, "there is a complication. The nephews Richard and Charles specifically are ruthless men. They have filed a motion to freeze the assets, claiming you are a fraud. We are ready to fight them, but we need you to come with us. Immediately. This apartment is no longer safe." Benjamin looked around. "Safe? Why?" "Because," Christopher said grimly, "there is $1 billion on the table. People have killed for much less. And right now you are the only thing standing between those men and a fortune." Benjamin stood up. She looked at the eviction notice on the door. She looked at the divorce papers she had kept signed by Liam, where he had given up everything to be with Jessica. "Do I have time to grab my coat?" Benjamin asked. Mr. Christopher smiled, a genuine, predatory smile that suggested he was going to enjoy destroying anyone who got in their way. "Take your time, Miss Jenkins. The car downstairs is bulletproof." The transition from the damp, peeling walls of her walk-up to the penthouse suite of the Harrington Grand Hotel was violent in its swiftness. One minute, Benjamin was breathing in mold. The next, the air smelled of white tea and expensive leather. The suite was larger than the entire building she had just left. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city skyline, a city that, according to Arthur Christopher, she now owned a significant chunk of. "Miss Jenkins, or may I call you Miss Harrington?" Christopher asked, standing by the marble kitchen island, where a private chef was plating a lobster salad. "Benjamin. Please, just Benjamin," she stammered, running her hand over the velvet upholstery of a chaise lounge. She was still wearing her faded jeans and a sweatshirt with a bleach stain on the hem. She looked like an intruder in her own palace. "Benjamin?" Christopher nodded. "We have a press embargo in place for 48 hours. The board of directors is in a panic. The Harrington stock dipped 2% when rumors of a mystery heir leaked, but it will skyrocket once we present you. But before that, we have a problem." "The nephews," Benjamin said, picking up a crystal glass of water. "Precisely. Richard, Charles, and William. They are currently downstairs in the lobby, demanding to see you. Security is holding them back, but they are threatening to bring in the press." Benjamin felt a cold knot in her stomach. "I can't face them. I look like this." She gestured to her clothes. "They'll eat me alive." "We anticipated this." Ms. Carlyle interjected, stepping forward with a tablet. "I've taken the liberty of arranging a wardrobe consultation. The team is in the master bedroom. Hair makeup styling. If you are going to walk into the boardroom, you need to look like you own the table, not like you're serving it." For the next 3 hours, Benjamin was poked, prodded, and polished. Her mousy, unkempt hair was blown out into sleek, honey-gold waves. The cheap drugstore makeup was replaced by a professional contour that highlighted cheekbones she didn't know she had. They dressed her in a tailored navy power suit by a designer whose name she couldn't pronounce, paired with nude stilettos that added 3 inches to her height. When she looked in the mirror, she gasped. The tired, broken waitress who had cried over a $20 bill was gone. Staring back was a woman who looked dangerous. "They are here," Christopher announced, checking his phone. "I'm bringing them up." 5 minutes later, the double mahogany doors swung open. 3 men stormed in, bringing a cloud of aggression with them. Richard Harrington led the pack. He was 50 with silver hair and a face that looked like it had been chiseled out of granite and resentment. Charles was younger, softer with shifty eyes behind rimless glasses. William, the youngest, looked bored, scrolling on his phone. Richard stopped dead when he saw Benjamin standing by the window. He looked her up and down, his lip curling. "So," Richard sneered, ignoring Christopher. "This is the stray cat Uncle Archibald picked up. I expected something younger, or at least prettier." "Watch your tone, Mr. Harrington," Christopher warned, stepping between them. "You are speaking to the majority shareholder." "I'm speaking to a fraud," Charles piped up his voice nasally. "We know who you are. Benjamin Jenkins, a waitress, a high school dropout. Your husband just dumped you because you're dead weight." We ran a background check. The mention of Liam stung, but Benjamin kept her face impassive. She remembered Liam's words. "I need someone with value." "What do you want?" Benjamin asked, her voice steady, though her heart was hammering. Richard laughed. He walked over to the table and threw a check onto the marble surface. "We want you to disappear." We know this DNA test is a fabrication. Archibald was senile in his final years. He probably paid some doctor to fake the results to spite us. But we are generous men. There is a check there for $500,000. Benjamin looked at the check. $500,000. It was more money than she would have made in 20 years at the diner. It could buy a house. It could fix everything. Take it, Richard pressed, stepping closer, invading her personal space. Take it. Go back to your trailer park or wherever you crawled out of and sign a refusal of inheritance. If you don't, we will tie this up in court for 10 years. You'll be bankrupt in 6 months trying to pay legal fees. We will bury you, Benjamin. We will expose every dirty secret you have. We know about the debt. We know about the failed marriage. We will paint you as a gold-digging whore on every news channel in the country. Benjamin looked at the check again. Then she looked at Richard. She saw the same look in his eyes that she had seen in Liam's. The arrogance, the certainty that she was nothing, that she was small. She reached out and picked up the check. Richard smirked. Smart girl. Benjamin slowly tore the check down the middle. Then she tore it again. She let the pieces flutter to the floor like confetti. I don't want $500,000, Benjamin said, her voice dropping to a low, icy calm. I want it all. Richard's face turned purple. You stupid little... Get out of my suite, Benjamin commanded, pointing to the door, and get off my property. In fact, Mr. Christopher, do I own the building their offices are in? Christopher checked a file, hiding a smile. Yes, Ms. Harrington. The Harrington Tower on 5th. Their venture capital firm leases the top 3 floors. Evict them, Benjamin said, not breaking eye contact with Richard. You can't do that, Charles shrieked. I just did, Benjamin replied. Security. 4 burly guards stepped out from the hallway. Richard looked like he was about to have a stroke. He jabbed a finger at Benjamin. You have made a grave mistake, he hissed. You think you've won. You have no idea what we are capable of. War is coming, little waitress, and you are going to bleed. As the guards dragged them out, Benjamin felt her knees tremble. She sat down on the chaise lounge, taking a deep breath. That was impressive, Christopher noted, collecting the torn pieces of the check. They're going to come after me, aren't they? Benjamin asked. Yes, Christopher said soberly, and they won't play fair. They will look for a weak link, a way to discredit you before the probate hearing next week. I don't have any weak links, Benjamin said, trying to convince herself. My life is boring. I worked, I came home, I slept. You have an ex-husband, Christopher pointed out. A man who left you in a state of desperation. If they find him, he could be a problem. Benjamin felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. Liam doesn't care about me. He's gone. Let us hope so, Christopher said, because if Richard Harrington finds him, he will weaponize him. Liam was sitting in a booth at Le Pierre, a restaurant he couldn't afford, watching Jessica text on her phone. Are you listening to me? Liam asked, cutting into his steak. It was overcooked, but he didn't dare complain. Jessica was paying. Jessica didn't look up. She was blonde, sharp-featured, and radiated a perpetual sense of busyness. I'm listening, Liam. You're complaining about your boss again. Maybe if you worked harder instead of whining, you'd get that promotion. Liam clenched his jaw. I am working hard, but the logistics market is tough right now. I just need a little breathing room. That credit card bill is your problem, Jessica snapped, finally putting the phone down. I told you I'm not carrying you. I wanted a partner, Liam, not a project. You said you were leaving your wife because she was holding you back. Well, she's gone. What's holding you back now? The question hung in the air, humiliating him. He opened his mouth to argue, but his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He ignored it. It buzzed again immediately. Answer it. Jessica sighed. It's probably a collector. Liam snatched the phone up, his face hot with shame. Hello? Is this Liam Jenkins? A smooth male voice asked. Who is this? My name is Charles Harrington. I'm calling on behalf of the Harrington Family Trust. I have a business proposition for you regarding your ex-wife, Benjamin. Liam froze. Benjamin? What about her? Did she die? No, Charles said. But she is causing a great deal of trouble. I am sitting in a private room at the back of the restaurant you are currently dining in. Le Pierre, correct? Liam whipped his head around. In the back corner, blocked by a velvet rope, he saw a man waving slightly at him. Jessica, I have to take this, Liam said, standing up abruptly. Sit down, Liam, she hissed. It's important. It's business. He walked to the back of the restaurant. A security guard lifted the rope, and Liam slid into the booth opposite Charles and Richard Harrington. He recognized them from the business magazines he read to pretend he was important. These were billionaires. Mr. Jenkins, Richard said, not offering a hand. Sit. What's going on? Liam asked, nervous but intrigued. Why are the Harringtons interested in Benjamin? Your ex-wife is attempting to perpetrate a massive fraud. Richard lied smoothly. She has forged documents claiming she is the illegitimate daughter of our late uncle, Archibald Harrington. She's trying to extort the family for millions. Liam blinked. Benjamin scammed you. That's impossible. Benjamin doesn't have the guts to jaywalk, let alone forge a will. She's desperate, Charles added. You left her. She has no money. Desperate people do crazy things. She's claiming she's heiress to the empire. We need to shut this down before it goes to the press and embarrasses the family. Liam scoffed. Benjamin an heiress. That's the funniest thing I've heard all year. She's a waitress. She smells like grease. Exactly, Richard said, leaning in. We need someone who knows her real character. Someone who can testify to her mental instability, her history of lying, her delusions of grandeur. Liam hesitated. She's not really delusional. Just pathetic. Richard slid a leather checkbook onto the table. He uncapped a gold fountain pen. We need a sworn affidavit, Richard said, stating that Benjamin has a history of mental illness, that she has been obsessed with the Harrington family for years, that she told you she planned to fake a DNA test. That's not true, though, Liam said slowly. Does it matter? Richard asked. She's a fraud, Liam. She's trying to steal from us. You'd be doing the right thing, stopping a crime. Richard wrote a number on the check and slid it across the table. Liam looked down. $50,000. His heart stopped. 50 grand. That would pay off his debts. It would buy a ring for Jessica. It would get him a new car. It would prove to Jessica he was a player. And, Richard added, if her claim is dismissed in court, thanks to your testimony, there will be another $50,000 waiting for you. $100,000 total. Just to tell a few lies about Benjamin. The woman who was dragging him down anyway. She was nothing. She was probably doing this just to get back at him. She's trying to scam you guys, Liam asked, feigning outrage. That's disgusting. I knew she was spiteful, but I didn't think she was criminal. So you'll help us? Liam picked up the check. The paper felt crisp and expensive. He looked at Richard and smirked the same smirk he gave Benjamin when he signed the divorce papers. "Where do I sign?" Liam asked. "Excellent," Richard said, signaling for a waiter. "Champagne, and bring the notary in." As Liam signed the affidavit, sealing Benjamin's fate, or so he thought, he felt a surge of power. He was dining with billionaires. He was making deals. He was finally in the big leagues. He had no idea that by signing that paper, he had just declared war on the most powerful woman in the city. And he had no idea that the fraud he was testifying against was actually the rightful owner of the very building he was sitting in. Back at the table, Jessica looked at him as he returned, beaming. "What was that about?" she asked. "Just networking," Liam said, flashing the check. "I just made 50 grand in 5 minutes. Dinner is on me, babe." Jessica's eyes widened. She smiled at him for the first time in weeks. "Well, aren't you full of surprises?" "You have no idea," Liam said, taking a sip of wine. "I'm finally getting what I deserve." Somewhere across the city in the penthouse suite, Benjamin sneezed. "Someone is talking about you," Christopher noted. "Probably Liam," Benjamin muttered, looking out at the rain. "Probably telling someone how glad he is to be rid of me." "Let him talk," Christopher said, closing the file on his desk. "Because next Friday is the reading of the will, and we are going to invite him." "Invite him why?" "Because," Christopher smiled, "revenge is a dish best served in front of a live audience." The morning headlines were brutal. "Waitress wannabe the fraudulent heiress of Harrington Empire. Former husband speaks out. She was obsessed with money." Benjamin sat in this penthouse living room, staring at the 60-inch television screen. A blurred-out silhouette of a man was speaking to a news anchor. The voice had been altered, deepening it electronically, but Benjamin knew that cadence anywhere. It was Liam. "She always had these delusions," the voice on the TV said. "She would talk about being a princess, about deserving more. When our marriage fell apart, she threatened to do something drastic to get rich. I never thought she'd try to scam a dead billionaire, but honestly, it sounds exactly like her. She's unstable. That's why I had to leave." Benjamin clicked the remote, shutting off the TV. Her hand was shaking. "He's lying," she whispered, looking at Arthur Christopher, who was calmly sipping an espresso while reading the Wall Street Journal. "He's telling the world I'm crazy. Everyone believes him. Look at the comments online. They're calling for my arrest." Christopher set his paper down. "Of course they are. Richard and Charles have hired a top-tier crisis management firm, Blackwood & Associates. Their job is to destroy your character, so that when we go to court, the judge sees a desperate con artist instead of a legitimate heir. Liam is just a puppet, a very cheap puppet." "He sold me out," Benjamin said, a tear tracing a path down her cheek. "I worked double shifts to pay for his dental work. I ironed his shirts, and he goes on national television and calls me unstable. It hurts." Christopher acknowledged, his voice firm. "But this is good." Benjamin looked at him like he was insane. "Good? How is this good?" "Because," Christopher stood up and walked to the window, "perjury is a felony, defamation is a tort, and conspiracy to commit fraud against an estate is a serious crime. By putting Liam on TV, by filing that affidavit, Richard has handed us a loaded gun. They think they are burying you, Benjamin. In reality, they are digging their own graves. We just have to let them finish digging." Christopher turned to her. "Tomorrow is the official reading of the last will and testament at the Harrington estate. It is usually a private affair, but Richard has petitioned for it to be recorded. He wants your humiliation to be public. He has invited the press to wait outside the gates. He has also invited a special witness to attend." Liam, Benjamin realized. Yes, Liam and his partner, Ms. Jessica Thorne. They will be there to gloat, to see you thrown out by security. Benjamin stood up. She walked to the mirror in the hallway. She looked at her reflection. She saw the fear in her eyes, but underneath it she saw something else. Anger. Cold, hard anger. "I don't want to just win, Arthur," she said quietly. "What do you want?" "I want them to hurt," she said. "I want Liam to feel exactly what I felt when he threw that $20 bill at me. I want him to feel small." Christopher smiled, and it was the smile of a shark sensing blood in the water. "Then, Miss Harrington, we need to go shopping. If you are going to destroy them, you should look like $1 billion while doing it." Meanwhile, across town, Liam was living his best life. He had spent $10,000 of the $50,000 on a down payment for a brand new Porsche Boxster. It was used, and the interest rate was terrible. But he didn't care. He looked good in it. He pulled up to the curb outside Jessica's office building, revving the engine. Jessica walked out, looking impressed for the first time since they'd met. "Nice ride," she said, sliding into the passenger seat. "Is this from your consulting fee?" "Just a little treat." Liam grinned, tapping the steering wheel. "And there's more coming. Richard Harrington called me personally this morning. He invited us to the estate tomorrow. The big reading." "Really?" Jessica's eyes lit up. "The Harrington estate, Liam, that's exclusive. People kill to get into those circles." "He wants me there to see the look on Benjamin's face when the judge throws out her claim." Liam laughed. "Apparently the DNA test results they have are inconclusive, and my testimony about her mental state is the nail in the coffin. The judge is going to void the will. The nephews get the money, and I get another $50,000. "Poor Benjamin," Jessica said, checking her makeup in the visor mirror. She didn't sound sad. "She really shouldn't have aimed so high. It's embarrassing." "She's a loser," Liam said, shifting the car into gear. "She was holding me back for years. Tomorrow I finally cut the cord for good. And then, babe, we're going to Cabo." He roared away from the curb, feeling like the king of the world. He had no idea that the car, the trip, and the future he was planning were all built on a sinkhole that was about to collapse. The Harrington estate was not just a house. It was a monument to old money. Located on a private island just off the coast, accessible only by a bridge guarded by a security checkpoint, the main house looked like a cross between a French chateau and a fortress. It was raining again, a gloomy grey backdrop for what Richard Harrington believed would be his coronation. Liam and Jessica arrived in the Porsche. The security guard at the gate checked their names against a list. "Mr. Jenkins, Ms. Thorne, you are expected in the Grand Library." The guard said, his face impassive. Liam drove up the winding driveway, his jaw dropping at the manicured gardens, the fountains and the fleet of luxury cars parked out front. "This is it," Liam whispered. "This is the big Tugunsaleg's." They were ushered into the library by a butler. The room was massive, smelling of old paper and beeswax. The walls were lined with books that had likely never been read. In the center of the room was a long mahogany table. Richard, Charles, and William sat on one side. They looked relaxed, triumphant. Richard was smoking a cigar, despite the no smoking sign on the wall. At the head of the table sat Judge Harrison Thorne, no relation to Jessica, a retired federal judge who was the executor of the estate. He looked stern, his grey eyebrows bushy and furrowed. "Ah, the star witness," Richard boomed, standing up to shake Liam's hand. "Good to see you, Liam, and this must be the lovely Jessica." Liam beamed. Mr. Harrington, thank you for having us. We wouldn't miss this show for the world. Charles snickered. Is she here yet? Not yet, Richard said, checking his Rolex. Probably taking the bus, or maybe she got cold feet and ran. Either way, once the clock strikes 10, if she isn't here, the default judgment goes to us. And the affidavit? Liam asked, tapping his chest pocket. The judge has it. Richard nodded toward the old man at the head of the table. Along with the psychiatric evaluation, we paid a doctor to interpret. It's a slam dunk, Liam. You saved the family. Just doing the right thing, Liam said, puffing out his chest. The grandfather clock in the corner began to chime 10. The heavy oak doors remained closed. Well, Richard grinned, spreading his hands. 10 o'clock. She's a no-show. Typical irresponsible behavior. Judge, I move that we proceed with the distribution of assets to the rightful heirs. Judge Thorne adjusted his glasses. The protocol allows for a 5-minute grace period, Mr. Harrington. 5 minutes, Richard scoffed. She's not coming. She knows she's beaten. Liam leaned over to Jessica. She's probably crying in that dump of an apartment right now. Suddenly, the sound of a helicopter cut through the silence of the room. It grew louder, a thumping rhythm that vibrated the crystal glasses on the sidebar. What is that? William asked, looking at the window. The sound of the engine whined down as a chopper landed on the great lawn. Moments later, the double doors of the library were thrown open by 2 armed security guards. Arthur Christopher walked in first, looking immaculate. He stopped and held the door. And then Benjamin entered. Liam's mouth fell open. She was wearing a white, bespoke suit that fit her like a second skin. Her hair was pulled back in a sleek, severe bun. She wore oversized black sunglasses, which she slowly removed as she stepped into the room. But it wasn't just the clothes. It was the way she walked. She didn't walk like a waitress, trying not to spill coffee. She walked like she owned the floorboards beneath her feet. She didn't look at Liam. She didn't look at the nephews. She walked straight to the empty chair at the opposite end of the table from the judge, pulled it out, and sat down. She placed a sleek black folder on the table. "Sorry I'm late," she said, her voice cool and crisp. "Traffic was terrible, so I took the chopper." Richard laughed, a nervous barking sound. "You rented a helicopter, spending the last of your tips, Benjamin. You know you're going to prison for fraud, right?" "Am I?" Benjamin asked, finally turning her gaze to Richard. Her eyes were terrifyingly calm. "I thought we were here to read a will." "There is no will for you," Charles shouted. "You are a mental case. We have the affidavit." He pointed at Liam. "Her own husband says she's crazy." Benjamin slowly turned her head toward Liam. Liam felt a bead of sweat roll down his back. He had expected her to look pathetic. He expected her to be begging. Instead, she looked at him like he was a bug she had found on her shoe. "Ex-husband," Benjamin corrected. "And yes, I see he is here. How much did they pay you, Liam?" "Was it enough? I wasn't paid," Liam stammered, his face turning red. "I'm just telling the truth, Benjamin. You need help." "We have a sworn statement," Richard interrupted, slamming his hand on the table. "Judge, read the finding. Dismiss this charade." Judge Thorne cleared his throat. He opened the file in front of him. "I have indeed reviewed the affidavit provided by Mr. Liam Jenkins," the judge said, his voice gravelly. "And I have reviewed the motion to dismiss filed by the Harrington nephews." "And," Richard demanded. "And," the judge continued, "I have also reviewed the supplemental evidence provided by Mr. Christopher this morning." "What evidence?" Richard frowned. "Video evidence," the judge said. He picked up a remote control and pointed it at a panel on the wall. The wood paneling slid back to reveal a screen. The screen flickered to life. It was grainy footage from a security camera. Liam's heart stopped. It was the interior of Le Pierre restaurant. The angle was from high up a hidden camera in the smoke detector. The audio was crystal clear. "We need a sworn affidavit stating that Benjamin has a history of mental illness. There is a check there for $500,000. No 50,000. If her claim is dismissed, another 50,000 waiting for you." On the screen, Liam's voice rang out. "Where do I sign?" The video froze on Liam's smirk as he took the check. The silence in the library was absolute. Richard turned pale. Charles looked like he was going to be sick. Liam felt Jessica pull her hand away from his arm, as if he were on fire. That's out of context," Liam squeaked. "That's a deep fake." "It is 4K resolution recorded by the restaurant's security system, which happens to be owned by the Harrington Group," Christopher said smoothly. "We pulled the hard drive an hour ago." Benjamin leaned forward, resting her chin on her hand, looking directly at Liam. "You sold me for $50,000, Liam," she said softly. "You sold the truth for the price of a mid-range car." Liam couldn't breathe. "Perjury," Judge Thorne said, closing the file. "Suborning perjury, bribery, extortion." He looked at the nephews. "You three have not only forfeited your claim to the estate by attempting to defraud the primary heir, but you have also triggered the bad faith clause in Archibald's will." "Bad faith clause," Richard whispered. "It states," the judge read, "that should any family member attempt to obstruct the rightful heir through illegal means, they shall be stripped of all existing stipends, trust funds, and company positions immediately." The judge looked up. "You're out, gentlemen. All of you. You are fired. Your trust funds are frozen. You are trespassing." Richard stood up, his face purple. "You can't do this. I built this company." "You managed it," Benjamin said, standing up. "And you managed it poorly. Security." The guard stepped forward. "Get them out," Benjamin said. As the nephews were dragged out screaming threats, Liam sat frozen in his chair. He was the only one left. He looked at Benjamin, trying to summon the old dynamic, trying to bully her with his eyes. "Benjamin, look." Liam started his voice, trembling. "They tricked me. I was trying to protect you. I thought—" "Stop," Benjamin said. She didn't shout. She just held up a hand. She reached into her sleek white purse and pulled out a single crumpled piece of paper. She slid it down the long mahogany table. It stopped right in front of Liam. It was the $20 bill he had thrown at her the night he left. "You forgot your change," Benjamin said. "Benjamin, please." Liam stood up, looking at Jessica for support, but Jessica was already edging away from him. "We're married. We have a history. You can't just leave me like this. I'm your husband." "Ex-husband," Benjamin corrected again. "And actually—" "Liam, I have one more surprise for you. Do you remember the divorce papers you made me sign? The ones you were so proud of?" "Yes." Liam grasped at a straw of hope. "We can tear them up. We can start over." "Oh, no." Benjamin smiled. "I don't want to tear them up. I want to enforce them. Specifically the clause you wrote yourself. The one about equitable distribution of debt." Liam blinked. "What?" "You wrote that we leave with only what is in our own names," Benjamin said, signaling Christopher. Christopher stepped forward. "Mr. Jenkins, since signing those papers you have incurred significant debt. The car, the credit cards, The loans you took out against your future inheritance from the nephews. So, Liam said, I can pay it off. No, you can't, Christopher said, because the check Richard gave you has been cancelled. The funds were drawn from a frozen account. It bounced this morning. Liam looked at his phone. A notification flashed, bank alert, overdraft. Payment failed. And, Benjamin added, since the Porsche is in your name and the debt is in your name and you have no job because I just bought the logistics firm you work for. Liam's eyes bulged. You bought my company. This morning, Benjamin said casually. I didn't like the management, so I'm cleaning house. You're fired, Liam. She pointed to the door. Get out and take your $20. You're going to need it for the bus. The heavy oak doors of the Harrington estate slammed shut, the sound echoing like a gunshot. Liam stood on the wet gravel of the driveway, the rain soaking through his expensive suit, a suit he hadn't paid for yet. He turned to Jessica, his face pale and desperate. Jess, wait. We can fix this. I can get another job. I'm a good salesman. Jessica was already under the awning of the guard shack, furiously typing on her phone to call an Uber. She looked up at him with pure disdain. The rain had flattened her hair, but her glare was sharp enough to cut glass. You're not a salesman, Liam, she spat. You're a liability. You told me you were going to be rich. You told me your ex was a nobody. Instead, you just got fired. You're in massive debt, and you just pissed off the most powerful woman in the state. But I did it for us, Liam pleaded, reaching for her arm. She recoiled. Don't touch me, and don't call me. I have a reputation to maintain. If people find out I'm dating the guy who tried to perjure himself on a viral security cam video, I'm finished. A black SUV pulled up her ride. She hopped in without a backward glance. The tires crunched on the gravel, spraying mud onto Liam's trousers as she sped away. Liam stood alone in the downpour. He looked at his Porsche. A tow truck was already backing up to it. The estate security had called it in. Hey, that's my car, Liam shouted, running over. The tow truck driver, a burly man with a cigar, didn't even look at him. Bank order, repossession, payment default. I just need to get home, Liam cried. Bus stop is 2 miles down the road, the driver grunted, lifting the car. Liam checked his pockets. He had his phone dead battery, his wallet empty cards, and a single crumpled piece of paper. The $20 bill Benjamin had slid across the table. He stared at the face of Andrew Jackson on the bill. The irony tasted like bile in his throat. This was it. This was his net worth. He started walking. Six months later, the city was buzzing with the news of the Harrington revitalization. Under Benjamin's leadership, the company had pivoted. She had stopped the ruthless evictions the nephews were famous for, and started community housing initiatives that paradoxically had tripled the company's public approval rating and stock value. She wasn't just rich, she was beloved. Benjamin sat in the back of her chauffeured Maybach, reviewing the quarterly reports. She looked different now. The fear was gone from her eyes, replaced by a steely confidence. But she hadn't forgotten where she came from. Driver, she said, tapping the partition. Pull over here. I want to get some coffee. The driver looked confused. Ms. Harrington, we can get coffee at the office. This is, well, it's a bit of a dive. Benjamin looked out the window. They were parked in front of the Greasy Spoon, a diner on the edge of the industrial district. It was worse than Sal's, where she used to work. I know, Benjamin said. I have a craving. She stepped out of the car, flanked by 2 security guards. She walked into the diner. The bell above the door jingled. The smell of burnt grease and old coffee hit her instantly, transporting her back to her old life. She sat in a booth near the window. The place was empty except for a trucker at the counter. "Be right with you," a voice called from the back, a voice that sounded exhausted, broken and familiar. A waiter pushed through the swinging kitchen doors. He was wearing a stained apron. His hair was thinning, and he looked 10 years older. He had bags under his eyes, deep enough to carry groceries. It was Liam. He walked over to the table, eyes fixed on his notepad, too tired to even look at the customer. "Welcome to the Greasy Spoon. What can I get for you?" He looked up. The pen fell from his hand. Benjamin sat there, looking immaculate in a cashmere coat, her hands folded on the table. She looked at Liam, really looked at him. She expected to feel anger. She expected to feel triumph. But looking at him now, broken, smelling of grease, wearing shoes with worn-out soles, she just felt pity and indifference. He wasn't a monster. He was just a small, weak man who had made a terrible bet. "Benjamin," Liam whispered. His voice cracked. He looked around, terrified, as if expecting the police to jump out. "What are you doing here? Are you here to ruin me again?" "I can't lose this job, Benjamin. It's all I have. I'm living in a motel. I'm just here for coffee, Liam," Benjamin said calmly. "Black, 2 sugars." Liam stood frozen for a moment, then scrambled to the counter. His hands shook as he poured the coffee. He spilled a little on the saucer and hurriedly wiped it with a dirty rag. He brought it back, placing it gently in front of her. "Benjamin." He started, his eyes welling up. I messed up. I know that. I think about it every day. I had it all. I had you. And I threw it away for nothing." He waited, hoping for a reaction, hoping for forgiveness, or maybe just an argument. Anything to prove he still mattered to her. Benjamin took a sip of the coffee. It was terrible, burnt and acidic. "The coffee is cold, Liam," she said simply. She stood up. She didn't scream. She didn't lecture him. She didn't offer to save him, and she didn't offer to destroy him. She simply paid her bill. She placed a $5 bill on the table for the coffee. Then she reached into her purse. Liam held his breath. Was she going to give him money? A check? A second chance? She pulled out a crisp $20 bill. She placed it on the table. "Keep the change," she said. She turned and walked out of the diner, her heels clicking on the linoleum. The bell jingled as she exited, stepping back into her world of power and possibility. Liam stood alone in the silent diner, staring at the $20. It was the exact same amount he had thrown at her when he ended their marriage. The universe had circled back. He realized then that he would never escape this moment. He would spend the rest of his life serving coffee to people who were going places he could never reach. He gripped the table, and for the first time in his life, he truly understood the value of what he had lost. And that is the story of how one signature changed everything. Liam thought he was signing away a burden, but he was actually signing away a dynasty. He chased the illusion of a better life with Jessica and the nephews, only to find that the grass isn't greener on the other side, it's greener where you water it. Benjamin, who had watered their life with her sweat and tears, finally got the garden she deserved. It's a brutal reminder that you should never judge someone by their current situation, because you never know when the tables might turn. Liam learned the hard way that arrogance is a loan with a very high interest rate, and eventually life comes to collect. Wow, what a roller coaster I have to ask you guys. If you were Benjamin, would you have tipped Liam that $20 at the end? Or would you have done something even pettier? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story of massive karma and sweet revenge, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel. And if you want more real-life drama stories like this one, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.